What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, we have some very interesting, disgusting, terrible, shocking news. As well-renowned Hall of Fame referee, Tony Weeks responds back to all the critics that have critiqued his last two high-profile performances, which was May of this year when Rolando Rolly Romero took on Ishmael Barroso and he prematurely stopped the fight in the 9th round where Ishmael Barroso was up on all three judges' scorecards, had dropped Rolly Romero, had Rolly Romero looking absolutely confused and discombobulated in the ring. And that garnered Rolando Rolly Romero to pick up the vacant WBA, World Boxing Association title that was vacated by British junior welterweight superstar, undisputed title holder, Josh Taylor. Rolly Romero, Ishmael Barroso, they fought for that vacant title. It was supposed to be a comeback showcase fight for Rolando Rolly Romero, who was the favorite over the 40-year-old Ishmael Barroso, who is a journeyman in the sport of boxing. And shockingly, coming off of a knockout loss, Rolly Romero looked absolutely pedestrian against Ishmael Barroso, who dropped him, hurt him multiple times, and he didn't want to engage. And Tony Weeks, he took a lot of heat and a lot of flack for that. Then last night, another fighter made a ring return as he had an extensive period of time in layoff, and that's Vergil Ortiz Jr. Vergil Ortiz Jr. is now 20 wins, no loss, no draw, 20 wins by way of knockout. He took on Frederick Lawson last night. And in the first round, the first sign of adversity, Tony Weeks jumped in and he stopped the fight, surprisingly. And everybody was like, what is Tony Weeks doing? Why did he stop this fight? This was Frederick Lawson's opportunity of a lifetime, and Tony Weeks jumped in and stopped the fight, and Frederick Lawson didn't even take much punishment in the fight, right? Wrong. Tony Weeks heard all the critics, all the critiques and the criticism. Even myself said that it's time for Tony Weeks to go. He's incompetent. He can't do his job. His judgment is off. Well, Tony Weeks, he responds and he clears up everything, right? And Tony Weeks explains what happened. And he completely exposes the business of the sport of boxing. As many people felt like Tony Weeks might have been allegedly taking something under the table, right? No, Tony Weeks explains why he stopped the fight. And you will not believe this mind-blowing reveal from Tony Weeks. He reveals that this fight was on the verge of being canceled. You heard it. The fight was on the verge of being canceled because Frederick Lawson had did physical exams, as every fighter does before the fight, and he did multiple tests that came back that before the fight, he had a brain aneurysm. You heard what I said. He had a brain aneurysm on the scans. On the CAT scans that he was doing, it came back that he had a brain aneurysm. Then he had to do another one, right? And on that test, it revealed the same thing. And then he said suddenly they brought in a third doctor out the blue that cleared him for the fight. You heard me. So now all of a sudden he was cleared. So Tony Weeks said he was afraid for this man's life because the findings on his scans. This is what he had to say. Quote, what the public didn't know that prior to the fight, they did a brain scan on him and it came up that he had an aneurysm. And they did a test again and the same aneurysm came up. Then another doctor was brought in and gave him the same examination and he tested negative for the aneurysm, so they cleared him for the fight, end quote. So Tony Weeks is saying that they suddenly brought in a third doctor, and this doctor did the same test, and he didn't find any findings of the aneurysm. So he's stating that, this particular doctor, he did the scan, and now he finds nothing, and he absolutely gets cleared for the fight. So Tony Weeks said that when he saw him take the slightest punishment in this fight, and when he did it, he had took a punch where he froze in the fight, right? He kind of froze up. He took a hard punch, and Vergil Ortiz did catch him with a few clean punches in this fight. And when Vergil Ortiz caught him with a few big clean punches, then he did a high guard on the ropes, and he was getting a lot of punches, a lot of high work rate from Vergil Ortiz, but he was covering up. A lot of those punches didn't go through, right? But immediately Tony Weeks jumped in and waved off the fight. Now we know why, because Tony Weeks felt in the back of his mind subconsciously, this man could have a brain aneurysm right now in this fight, and that they're claiming they didn't find nothing on the third test, but the first two tests claimed the same aneurysm popped up on both tests. Now they're saying that it didn't pop up. So he didn't want that on his conscience. He didn't want to be the referee, the third man in the ring, if something tragic happened, because they wanted this fight to continue because it was already too far ahead to be canceled and have a replacement opponent. This is the business of the sport of boxing. I told y'all the sport of boxing is the absolute wild, wild west. I told you it was the wild, wild west. And now you've seen it. So they're playing games with this man's life, Frederick Lawson. Now, I'm sure Vergil Ortiz, he might have knew that there was some medical things that he was going through, his opponent was going through, but he probably didn't know exactly what it was that he was going through. Imagine if Vergil Ortiz Jr. would have hit this man, and this man possibly would have lost his life in the ring, and they knew about this prior to him even getting in the ring, allegedly. This is terrible. This man, Frederick Lawson, has a whole family, right? And Tony Weeks don't want that on his conscience? Why would Tony Weeks want that on his conscience when subconsciously he was already made aware that this man has a brain injury possibly before he even steps in the ring? And in the sport of boxing, we already know one punch can change not just the fight, but it can change your entire life. Or worse, right? So why would they even, if they had two findings, why would they even seek out a third one instead of saying, listen, you know something? We're going to pull you from this fight. You're going to have to do some extensive testing to dig deeper, and we're going to have to replace him or cancel the fight. They didn't want to do that. You know why? Because Vergil Ortiz himself had been going through health issues for an extremely long time, and multiple fights with him and Stanionis got canceled because of that. So they didn't want to prolong Vergil Ortiz again, right, and put him on the shelf. But they could have found a replacement opponent to step in. It wouldn't have been, a whole different scenario. But they didn't want to replace Frederick Lawson. But guess what? His family can't replace him if life is lost. So at the end of the day, this is why Tony Weeks made that decision. And you can't blame him. Because guess what? He didn't want that on his conscience. If something would have happened and he already previously knew that this man was going into the ring with a brain injury, imagine that. He would be second guessing and questioning himself, and he might have go down a downward spiral from that point forward, because guess what? He knew that this was a possibility and he did nothing about it. And he allowed the fight to continue. Right? That would have changed Tony Weeks' career and life forever, possibly. And who knows what would have been the outcome for him in his life, knowing that he could have saved this man's life, and he didn't. So that's why Tony Weeks made the decision that he made. And this is terrible that the doctors would even look for. This is a collision contact sport. It's a combat sport. And the brain is the most fragile thing. You're trying to protect these fighters. Any combat athlete or collision athlete, football player, there is to begin with. Imagine a CT scan for an NFL player pops up twice that he has an aneurysm that could erupt possibly, and then a third doctor comes in and clears him and he plays on Sunday. That will never happen in the NFL. You know why? the first 2 sightings, they're going to be like, bruh, the year is over for you. Only in the sport of boxing, though. And that's all I got for y'all, man. Kudos to Tony Weeks for being a human being above all. Shout out to Tony Weeks for that. And I stand corrected on what I thought and what I said about Tony Weeks in my previous video. And that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. So all I got for y'all. I'm gone. Peace.